Some skeptics say that Jesus never existed. They say that he is simply a copycat of other divine figures from the ancient world, and they point to parallels between Jesus and these other characters to prove their point. Let's zoom out for a second, because sometimes there are coincidences that take place that seem too good to be true to us, but actually aren't as crazy as we think. Now let me give you a perfect example of this. Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy were both presidents of the United States, elected exactly 100 years apart. Both were shot and killed by assassins who are known by 3 names with 15 letters: John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald. Neither of these 2 killers would make it to trial. Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, and Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. They were both killed on a Friday while sitting next to their wives. Lincoln in the Ford Theater and Kennedy in a Lincoln made by Ford. Both men were succeeded by a man named Johnson. Andrew for Lincoln and Lyndon for Kennedy. Andrew was born in 1808 and Lyndon in 1908. Now, that has to be suspicious, right? Isn't it just logical to raise a red flag and conclude that Kennedy never existed? Just one too many coincidences with Lincoln, and therefore he simply was a copycat president that was made up by some later conspiracy? This is an example of what is referred to as the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. This logical fallacy is committed when specific differences in data are ignored while the similarities are stressed, creating a false conclusion. The name of the fallacy comes from the idea of a Texan firing shots into the side of a barn with a pistol. And after emptying the chamber, the Texan then paints a target around the tightest cluster of bullet holes, thus reversing the process of cause and effect and trying to appear as if they are an excellent shot. And this is exactly what we are dealing with when skeptics point out supposed connections and similarities between Jesus and other central divine figures from various ancient religions. You see, the fact is that Jesus' life, death, and resurrection are unique. When the data is evaluated, no other figure from any other ancient religion even comes close to looking like a copy of what we see recorded about Jesus' life in the New Testament. The myth of multiple dying and rising gods with 12 followers and virgin births are exactly that, myths, with no real bearing on what actual ancient stories say about those religious figures. But for argument's sake, let's say that the parallels were there. Let's say that there was overwhelming overlap, striking similarity, remarkable resemblance, details that just seem too good to be true. What are we to then conclude? Well, if we're being consistent across the board, that President Kennedy never existed, just a copycat of a former president. Kennedy did exist, and so did Jesus. And you can be confident that what you read about his life in the Gospels is accurate and true.